Internet, what is really good? You know who I am. Y'all know who I am. If you have forgot who I am or what channel you're watching or anything like that, let me remind you who it is that I is. That's proper grammar. Yo, what's up? You know who it is. It's the one and the only, the triple, the G.O.D. And of course, welcome back to your favorite YouTube show, that show we lovingly call around here Diary of a Game Whore. And I would like to officially welcome the internet to the opus of the King of Fighters, because I am trying to understand in my head why it took this long to get to this point so we can actually talk about video games that I love. But that is another conversation. There's actually going to be a video discussing this a little bit because, back in 2011 when I was about to review this video game, things happened. Let's just put it like that. That things happened that changed how it is that I do business. And that's about all you're going to get from me from that, unless I write a memoir about it, then you can read about it and pay to read it. But seriously, y'all, welcome to the King of Fighters 94, everybody. We have got a lot of information to get into, and we just got a lot to do. Well, in this video, because there's going to be a Triple the Guy explains it all about this video game, which is going to be separate from this. So, if all you want to hear is fan theories and canon talk and lore, this is the video for you. If you want to learn how to play this video game taught by someone who knows what the fuck they're doing, there's a video for that, and there are going to be a whole bunch of videos, including a review of the King of Fighters, the Orochi Collection, and the King of Fighters Collection, the Orochi Saga, which we are using to do this portion of the video. Because here's a fun fact. When I decided after the React video I was going to do this, I learned something that I knew in my head but didn't understand until like the moment when I decided I was going to do this. The King of Fighters Collection, the Orochi Saga, are the only set of games of 94, 95, 96, and 97 that have infinite time on the character select. Because that's how I do. I have to spend 20 or 30 minutes at these menus because you need to learn about these characters. No AES version offers that, even in practice mode, which when you think about practice modes in the year 2016 or fighting games in 2016 that have character selects not in the arcade, that have infinite time at the character select screen, it's weird. Not even the Sega Saturn ports or the Neo Geo CDZ ports, because if I say the word Neo Geo CD, it makes me sick to my stomach. I love the Neo Geo CD, but it was a good idea, barred and bad execution. The PlayStation ports, there are things, and we're going to talk about those things when we talk about this collection and the King of Fighters, the Orochi Saga collection, about emulation and video game systems and how to pick out the best versions to play on that, because I have a lot of information about that and this collection and stuff. But that's enough talking for me. We need to talk about this cast and about the lore about this game and about some new fan theories that I've come up with, because, again, remember, made a video 5 years ago when I played Fatal Fury Special with that character to the far right of your screen, Ryo Sakazaki, about KOF canon and how it relates to SNK Prime and games you didn't even know were even canon to SNK Prime and KOF. Here's the thing. In my research, to try to look over what I said 5 years ago and things now, I came back to a question that I'm going to try to answer. How does Art of Fighting 2 fit into the canon of KOF? Because if you didn't know, the tournament that happened in Art of Fighting 2 that's ran by Geese is the first official King of Fighters tournament in SNK canon, period. The problem with that is when you start reintroducing dead people into games and it alters canon, and then you kill characters off in other versions of the canon, it gets weird, and then it muddles everything, because you, or actually me in this case, as someone who values and appreciates the lore that these games present, is trying to figure out how to make a puzzle that makes sense of time and doesn't sit up here and jumps around to try to fit things to make sense for the sense that it's trying to make. I'm talking to you, Street Fighter. You know what the fuck you be doing. Look, here's the thing. I still haven't come up with a legitimate answer to whether or not Art of Fighting 2 actually happens in the canon of KOF, because it would make zero sense. It would make zero sense for the original tournament to happen before Terry beats Geese. It doesn't make any sense because, again, we have to remember, in KOF canon, everybody in Art of Fighting is 10 years younger than they would be in SNK Prime, which makes things like AOF 2 happen before Wild Ambition. When you get to things like KOF, it kind of muddles that, because because you can fit Art of Fighting 2 into KOF if you say that in the same span that Art of Fighting 1 and Art of Fighting 2 happened in the same span of maybe 6 or 7 months. That at that point there was no Billy yet, and the thing about what happened after Rio beat Geese was, after Rio beat Geese, he went and found Billy in what country is that? England, yes, because we have a team in this game that represents them. It's the women fighter team. We'll get into that in a minute. Is that for a long time in SNK Prime, after Geese got his ass whooped, Billy was representing him in the myriads of KOF tournaments that were happening until Terry beat his ass in Wild Ambition. And yes, a reminder, Fatal Fury 1 is not a thing that happens in canon. Wild Ambition is, and we're going to get into this in a second. Just because characters like Zanfei and Kim and Mai are in that game, and even Ryuji Yamazaki, because SNK is weird like that, even though they're there, they have no effect on what actually happens. That they could put any character in Wild Ambition, but it doesn't change what Wild Ambition's point was. It was to simply change that Terry only whooped Geese's ass the first time and then knocked him out the window the second, instead of knocking my man out of a window twice. But then there comes the weird plot hole where Geese came up with the Shippuden before he hit the ground, so he's still able to do it in Fatal Fury Special, which is a non-canon game. We'll get into that. And that's a move he has in future games. So it's a giant monkey plot hole about how he came up with a move 5 seconds before he died, and no one wishes to explain that because, canon, no one really cares but Triple the G.O.D. about it. It's weird, man. So, it is possible that Art of Fighting 2 could happen in canon, but it would make zero sense in the puzzle of trying to put this story together as it relates to the deviation that it takes from SNK Prime to even happen in the first place. Here's the thing that 5 years ago that was right in front of my face that I did not realize. Fatal Fury Special in canon is actually the first KOF game, technically, because that's what introduces the whole Rio's younger than he would be normally, and everything that makes the KOF Divergent branch from SNK Prime make sense. So, just as it has been explained, is that your branch comes from, because Art of Fighting 1, that happens because, somebody's daddy's got to kidnap someone's daughter, put on a Tengu mask, and say, you only need the power of the House Shokoken to beat me, da-da-da-da-da. That's a thing that happens. Art of Fighting 2, even in the middle of this conversation I'm having with you, Internet, still not sure if that happens. Fatal Fury 1, that is a thing that happens. Fatal Fury 2, that is a thing that happens. Well, actually, in this instance, it would be Fatal Fury Special, because the non-canon game that is non-canon normally is now a canon video game because it introduces the one character that bridges the series together. That made more sense in my head, and when I wrote it down and tried to figure it out before I just said it to you, but that's what it is. Your canon as it is right now, as we're going through this, is all the stuff that happened with characters that aren't in this game yet, but are in the next one. All of that, the last Blade stuff that happens, and then, Art of Fighting 1, possibly the events of Art of Fighting 2, skipping anyone actually beating Geese's ass, Wild Ambition, Fatal Fury Special, The King of Fighters 94. You still got all those little small games. It's like, even with that, you have to really consider that. Does the super spot happen? Not really sure. Have to get back to you on that. 3 count bout? Hell yeah, that happens. Riding. Da-da-da-da-da. Big Bombarder. Stuff we talked about all this. Fatal Fury Special is where the divergence takes place. Because again, as you might know about how Street Fighter canon works, usually in most cases when there's more than one game in a series, it usually drops the first game. This is very important when it comes to Street Fighter 3. Because when it comes to canon, the way it considers New Generation doesn't happen. Because New Generation and Second Impact are technically the same game when it comes to story, and only then after does Alex get a chance to fight Gil and Third Strike and stuff. And when you get into Street Fighter 4, that's another Wild Ambition thing where characters are there and they don't do anything. The other example of how events happen, but not necessarily the game where the events take place, is Real Bout 2. Because that game introduces Rick and Zonfei into canon, but nothing in Real Bout 2 happens because it's a non-canon video game. And actually, while I'm thinking about it, here's a fun fact. In my original research way back in the day, I always thought the Real Bout series was actually a retelling of the Fatal Fury games. That Real Bout was supposed to be a retelling and an upgrade, and we know that's not true now. But I remember back in the day, that used to be my hypothesis before having information to look at in magazines and wikis and stuff like that. That is what I originally thought. I was a bad person for thinking that, and I apologize to me for thinking that. But again, it's just theories. It's fun theories to really think about and consider. But I think that's it. We're going to talk a little more about canon and when it comes to stuff, because there is a team on this roster and the country they represent, which brings up another question entirely, which 2 games from now I'm going to make an attempt to answer. And when I think about answering that question, I learned something new about the game that it references, and when I actually get to talking about that series in general, we'll talk about it. So, with that being said, here's an idea. I got a strange idea, and I need you to fuck with me. Maybe I should talk about this cast. Maybe I should just do that. Maybe we've had enough lore for one day. We should talk about this cast. Let's start with Team Italy. Terry Bogard, Andy Bogard, and Joe Higashi. Here's something that you probably never considered, or even thought about, or even, considered, because I really didn't think about it until I actually had to sit here at this Curtis Select screen and look at this cast and just start asking myself questions that I knew I wanted to present answers to, or at least know for myself why. The question about Team Italy is, why a team of the Street Fighter, the Ninja, and the Muay Thai fighter represent Italy? The answer is because Andy staged in Fatal Fury 2 and Fatal Fury Special is in Italy. I don't know if the stage in this game and the stage in Fatal Fury 2 and Special are the same exact place, but I know it's the same. I know it's the same exact channel, but I don't know if it's the same exact place where it takes place. Which is weird, but it's not really weird because we have a team representing the United States of America. So I don't get or understand why they would be representing Italy, because you know what, I can't even say it, because I don't know if this was niggas in Paris 20 something years earlier. Well, actually, niggas in Paris came out about 2000 something, 2010, I want to say. This would technically be ninjas in Italy. well, a ninja, a street fighter, and a Muay Thai fighter in Italy. But it was a bad reference to Kanye and Jay-Z songs. Don't get mad, please. Because I'm looking at myself and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have gone with the niggas in Paris reference, but that was a good ass song. You can't even stunt. You can't even stunt that wasn't a hot ass song. Don't play with me. Next, representing the People's Republic of China is Teen Psycho Soldier with Athena Asamiya, C. Kenso, and Shin Gisa. There's nothing strange about the Japanese idol girl and the two Chinese people on the team representing China, because Athena, even though she's a Japanese-born citizen, she spent all her life training with Shin, even though, this is new stuff they added from Psycho Soldier because Shin wasn't even a character. Yes, Internet, Shin wasn't even a character in Psycho Soldier. There's no mention of him or nothing. We should play Psycho Soldier. Holler at your boy if y'all want to play Psycho Soldier, because I can go get that on the PS3. I think the mini still works on the PS3 because I bought it on my PSP years ago because I just had a itch to play Psycho Soldier, and at the time I didn't have SNK Arcade Classic 0. But I have it now, and there's a giant conversation about SNK Classics SNK Arcade Classic 0 and how it relates to the minis available on PS3. But again, that's another one of those conversations for another day. Team Japan, Kyo Kusanagi, Benimaru Nikaido, and Gordama. If you guys remember the intro to this game, there wasn't a lot of Kyo in it. And if you know this series, that is going to change as soon as we are done talking about this video game. Because a lot of what rode on this game was the Fatal Fury versus KOF thing. That is what made this work, because that was the initial pitch. Because it was like, because from my understanding from reading interviews and stuff, and how even I look at it now, even though, like I said, like I've told the internet before, the first game I ever played in this series that I actually played was KOF 99. When I came back to KOF 94, is that I had a lot of, at that point, playing games after 99, a whole bunch of Capcom versus SNK, for me to understand how important Terry Bogard fighting Ryo Sakazaki in 94 is and was. They saw Kyo as the character who is going to carry this series, but they needed a hook. The hook wasn't the teenage kid in high school who don't go because, he's too busy, igniting things on fire with his fists. That wasn't going to happen yet. That wasn't a thing that was going to happen. And again, like I said, right now at this point, Kyo is not the character that would become the face of this series at this point. He is not that character at all. Because again, like I said, if you remember the intro, that's why I uploaded the intro separately. That was why I was uploading the intro separately from this video, so that you can listen to what I'm talking about and then go back and watch it. Because again, if you remember, okay, that part. You see Kyo in that motherfucker at the very end with Goro and Benimaru. Because again, the whole thing of the team we're going to talk about 3 teams from now, the team we just talked about, were the things that held it together. The whole Fatal Fury versus Art of Fighting thing, the whole let's bring characters from Psycho Soldier and characters from Akari Warriors because they represent a team, again, 3 teams from now. But again, like I said, these characters are not the characters that you know in the year 2016. They're not. And that's the point, and that's one of the main points that I hope that people catch as we look at each game in the mainline series, is that you see Kyo's importance grow. And even when, he gets kicked down for K-Dash, and even when Ash comes in the picture, is that Kyo is still a very integral part of what holds the series together. Hopefully that is a thing you learn, because trust me, kids is going to be on the tests. Representing the United States of America is the American sports team with Heavy D, Lucky Glauber, and Brian Battler. Oh boy. I can't even talk about this. I can't even do it. Heavy D, that's my fam, dog. That's folk right there. You know, I'm like, at this junction, I'm going to say this live. Brian Battler cool, but you could easily replace him with Johnny Maximum if you wanted to do that, you know. And we know, and you know, and the internet say that Lucky Glauber is based off street hoop, but I can't really, you know, really go to task for that or even confirm or deny it. But I will admit, like I say, this was an interesting idea. And then after that, they throw the idea away, and then they become a walking joke. They, for real, if you guys don't know the story, read up. We're going to talk about this in KOF 95. These three characters, from this point on, after this game is over, they become the walking joke of this series. They become one of the middle character, Lucky Glauber, becomes a walking joke in side games. Oh, he becomes a walking joke in side games. If you want to learn more about this, this is actually a part of the Pocket Change article. I talk a little bit about, you know, about how every time that these Negroes keep getting snuck, I talk about it at length because, you know, that's just what I do better than anybody else in the business. You guys know this. Look, I think that these three guys represent awesome character design, and it was a shame that SNK, you know, they don't even drag the. They didn't even get no love in 02. That's a shame. They didn't get no love in 02. I'm like, let me see. If I'm remembering correctly, they make an appearance in KOF 13. I think they make us. I think somebody mentions them, and they're also a part of the remake of the KOF 90 of Iori's KOF 95 stage. I think they're in the background somewhere, but that don't really mean much. But like I say, these is like for such awesome character designs, they become a running joke, and it's sad that SNK doesn't take care in using these characters more often. Well, at least Heavy D, because again, like I say, a lot of my dream teams revolve around Heavy D. He don't really need Lucky or Brian to be in KOF. I'm like, you could put him on a team with characters like Duck King or Alfred, characters I want to see in KOF, and you could keep Lucky and Brian and go sit them in a corner somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't really better or worse without them, but again, they decent characters. And then don't forget when we get into Ultimate Match, how dirty Lucky is in that game before they nerfed him into the ground. But, you know, but for the 5 seconds, he was one of the best characters in that roster. And then they, again, nerfed him in the ground. What are you really going to do about that? But again, point still stands. Great characters, heavily underutilized in KOF. Representing the Republic of Korea is Team Kim with Kim Kapwan, Troy Bones, and Shane Kohan. We talked about this in the React video. Is that this wasn't originally supposed to be the thing. Kim wasn't even supposed to be in this game. At least that's how I'm understanding. That's how I understand how it was supposed to be. That they threw Kim on there in the last minute, and then through the he's trying to reform the Choi and Chang thing later. I'm like, they really could have, you know, because I'm trying to think. Well, they couldn't have done that yet because, let me see. Fight Fever don't come out to next year. So they wouldn't have been able to pull in, you know, Hanbei Dal or anything, even though one of the original thoughts before they went with Kang Baydal, who was a striker in 2000, was they were going to put Hanbei Dal and on a team with Kim and somebody else. I think it might have been either Nick Commando or Miyuki, I think. Because if you think about John, he has a lot of moves in relation to Karate Kenji, but that's another conversation. I'm like, again, I will stand by this statement. I will stand by this. Some of Chang and Choi's best work is in Capcom versus SNK 2. That is some of their best work. That was an amazing way to take advantage of both characters. Is that we don't have enough to put Choi in the game, and Chang only has like 3 moves at a time. So get them together. I'm like, for real. It's like I said, you don't really see a lot of what Chang and Choi did in Capcom vs. SNK 2. You only see that in Melty Blood with the maid pairs. So while I understand we won't be getting more of that, not now, not probably ever, I appreciate that these characters exist. And I also appreciate that they got rid of Kim doing his own thing. The Chang and Choi have Xanadu now. So in this relation to what it is that, again, I can appreciate that this team exists, but I also appreciate what they do in the future. I appreciate how they evolve as characters and what these characters have done in games outside of KOF. Really can't get much better than that for an explanation. Team Brazil, or better known as the Ikari Warriors, with Commander Hadern, Ralph, what is this boy's name? Ralph Jones and Clark Steele. Okay. Here's my magical question of the day about this team. Is I have no idea why they represent Brazil. Because, from my understanding, no game that Ralph was allegedly in, no game that Ralph and Clark were both in, actually takes place in Brazil. The closest that these guys ever get to Brazil is a game that's related to this called Guerrilla War, where you could play as Che Guevara. But that's another conversation entirely. But you should play Guerrilla War. It's actually pretty fucking good. Anyway, again, I don't have an answer for you. I don't have an answer why they represent Brazil. It makes zero sense to me. There is no mechanical reason why they would be, but again, it's Commander Hadern. And still something I don't get to this day is, what's the deal with allegedly him and Leona representing a whole bunch of Neon Genesis Evangelion stuff? But I'm not going to look into that, because the last thing I watched that was Neon Genesis Evangelion was some fake porn movie. But the less we talk about that and the more you probably Google it will be better for everybody. But again, great characters, and they do a lot of stuff after this. I do love, and we'll talk about this more, is that they finally got these characters to cross over with Metal Slug at some point. So that's what, Metal Slug 6. So it was good that they got them in Metal Slug 6, and then Leona followed, and in between time it was the remake of the first Ikari Warriors on telephone that added Leona as a character. So, there's all of that. But again, Leona is a couple of games from now, and there is something important that goes with her and how she relates to this series, because actually, probably an accidental purpose, she's an actual important character to the game's overall plot. So, at least this series of games anyway. But again, another conversation for another day. Team England, a.k.a. the women fighter team, a.k.a. the Princesses of Punch, of King Masher Nui and Yuri Sakazaki, and that's backwards, because it's Yuri Sakazaki, my humongous D-cup tits, and those aren't even the biggest in this series, and King. Here's the question you might have. Here's the question I had until it made sense. Why are these three ladies representing England? Well, it's simple. King will soon build her club, will build Illusion 1 in England after this tournament is over. Because in KOF 95, that is where their stage takes place, in Illusion 1 in England. Illusion 2 is in Southtown, because, it makes sense to build a club in Southtown. But King's from France, Mai's from Japan, and Yuri's from America. I just need you to know that information, because it's going to be on the test too. Again, like I said, the only reason that these three characters are representing England is because King is going to build our club. I think she's either at this point, either the club is already built or is going to be built at some point in between 94 and 95. The important thing to remember about this team is this. This is where the Fatal Fury and KOF thing comes together. Because in this cast, they are the only mixed team in a game, consisting of characters from two different video games. Of course, Yuri and King being from Art of Fighting, and Mob being from Fatal Fury. That is historic for reasons, and you know, it happens more. It does. It's like the thing is that as we get into later games that, you know, get more into the gimmicks of the actual cast and stuff, is that you will see more mixed company. But in 1994, seeing the three ladies that represent the core nucleus of why this game exists is amazing. And then on top of that, it's three fine ladies. So, you know, you cannot argue with that at all. Team Mexico, or Team Art of Fighting, or Team Ryoko no Ken, of Ryo Sakazaki, Robert Garcia, and Takuma Sakazaki. Here's my other question. Why they represent Mexico? This was something I talked about 30 damn minutes ago. Is why they represent Mexico. I don't know. Here's the thing. Art of Fight 3 has not happened yet in this canon. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. Won't for a while. From my understanding of the events of Art of Fighting 3, and we'll talk about that in the game where this is brought up and matters, is that there is no location of the Garcia concern in Mexico. We could talk about the plot of Art of Fighting 3, but it would make no sense. Here's the other thing you might want to know. Their stage takes place in one of the satellite locations of the Pow Pow Cafe. This is important for reasons that this game never gets into, or actually no game for that matter. But you need to know that information. Is that three characters from Art of Fighting home stage is based off of a characters in Fatal Fury's club. Think about that for a second. Let that marinate, and let me try to repeat that in actual, you know, coherent English. Remember, these three characters are characters that are from a game called Art of Fighting. Their stage takes place in a well-known location in Fatal Fury in Mexico. Here's the other thing that, as I am talking to you now, that isn't in my notes, that I just thought about. I have no idea if Takuma would know Richard Meyer. I have no idea. I have no idea if they would have ever crossed paths. But when you think about how long the Pow Pow Cafe could have possibly been open, because it was open way before Terry went in there in Fatal Fury 1 and did what he did. So, it is very possible that the Pow Pow Cafe could precede anything Fatal Fury, and possibly could have been around during the Art of Fighting days, which would make more sense in that. And that's like, maybe that's something I need to research, and I'll get back to you guys when we actually do the next video, and I'll probably have an answer, if there's even an answer to give. Excuse me. That is this cast. That is a whole bunch of this lore. Thank you for joining me. Wasn't that hard? Not like pulling teeth or anything. Brain surgery, which I could perform if I wanted to, but you don't want me, you know, around in your brain. You don't want that. Look, the immediate plan for how I'm taking a look at the game is going to be like this. Is that you're going to get your opening, and that's going to be separate. You're going to get some lore discussion, which are the reviews, and then you're going to get a Triple Guy explains it all about the game in question. But since this is supposed to be a review, maybe I should take 2 minutes and actually talk about this game. For a game that came out in '94, it's really solid. There are a couple of commands that I don't agree with, and you know, it's a little tight. If you come into this and you've been playing like more recent KOF games, you gonna feel the difference about how stiff the game plays and feels. It doesn't make it any less of a great fighting game. Is that the secret to KOF 94 is this: play real bouts. We'll be talking about not real bouts. That's Fatal Fury, you clown. Rebout. Too many consonants. Too many consonants and vowels. Damn it, Vanna White. Look, if you're gonna play KOF 94, play Rebout. We're going to talk about Rebout and the thing that it should have did. But if you're gonna play KOF 94, skip KOF 94. Just play Rebout. It's the thing. It's not like, because again, this is something we're gonna get into when we talk about Rebout and we talk about Ultimate Match and Unlimited Match and things like that. When it comes to the 2 games, those games can be played alongside 98 and 2002. You play Real Bout because there's no reason to play 94. Is that this is a mini review of Rebout right now. Everything this game does, Rebout does, and then gives you additional things to do. We're not going to talk about what those things are because then the review would be pointless when I actually make it. Just know, if you're going to play this, just play Rebout. Just play Rebout. Skip the bullshit. That's what you do. You should at least play this in its original form. Because I'm always going to, and I always have been since the beginning of what the fuck it is I do better than anybody else. I'm always going to tell you, at least experience the OG once. At least understand why Rebout has to exist so that you appreciate 94 more. Because I didn't appreciate Rebout when it came out because I didn't really understand the need for a game like it until a couple of years ago when I really sat down and really took a look at what the game provides. When it comes to this game, again, like I say, you can skip it and play Rebout because it's about the same damn thing, except with new stages and stuff. Again, this is an amazing video game. It's an amazing video game because of what this started. A lot of what its competitor goes and does when it comes to X-Men versus Street Fighter owes a whole bunch to KOF 94. It does. It really does. Because you really didn't get a lot of the crossover stuff until, because when I think about fighting games and think about crossovers and stuff, when I think about the history and all the games I played, when it comes to crossover stuff, you get the every now nod. But it wasn't until Rio and Fatal Fury Special was when the crossover stuff started happening. And this is the series that fighting games need to remember that this is where it started. 94 is when stuff started crossing over, when it came to bringing back the Psycho Soldiers and the Ikari Warriors in a different way for people in 1994 to look at characters they played as 10 years ago, or 7 when it comes to when it comes to Psycho Soldier. But again, we talked about this in the React video. The crossover appeal when it came to characters like Nakaruru and Loveheart and Mui Mui and things like that. We're done with these characters and these characters. And even them being the characters where the crossover joins together and makes sense. Because these three don't become important to the next game. This game was built upon, again, and I said at the beginning of the video and I'm going to say it now, was Fatal Fury versus KOF. Fatal Fury versus Art of Fighting. Why do I do that? My brain is scattered. Fatal Fury versus KOF. This is what made people come to this and play. Because think about it like this. Remember SNK, you could press a button in the middle of the cab to switch games. How kind of mind blowing would it have been in 94 to be like, I could play Art of Fighting, I could play Fatal Fury, but it's a game with with a humongous part of both casts in the game representing both of their games with a whole bunch of new characters get down with. A lot of what this series does is bring that crossover appeal, and you know, fighting games that precede this have to respect that this is where it started at. That it started with that guest spot, and it grew and grew and grew into the series that fans love and enjoy today. And it's going to be my pleasure and privilege to talk to you about each one of these games and stuff you need to know, and a lots of fun there, because it's like a lot of my plans for like side things, because it's like, because even though I'm gonna be talking about the games in order, it's gonna be, you're gonna get on YouTube and it's gonna be like a little special little mini video coming back a couple of chapters, just something fun for you guys to look at and think about. And it's just like, I just want to give this game its just due, and I don't think in 2011 I could have done that. But I'm glad in 2016 we can do that, because again, this game, this opus is going to extend way past KOF 14 coming out, because I still ain't got no PS4 yet, so I'm probably not going to be playing it anyway. So I'm probably going to buy it, you know, for the sake of buying it, because that's what I do. It's just going to sit on my shelf. But we're going to be talking about the King of Fighters series for a while. We might get to King of Fighters 2000 and never leave it. That could possibly happen in 95 and 96. Or even 99, because, oh man, I got plans. I got the plans. Do you hear me? I got the plans. I got the work in the cut cooking. So trust me, there's going to be a lot of fun stuff. We're going to be taking a look at a lot of the ports of the different games and stuff like that, so you guys can really see, like, and really bring y'all into the moment about, like, how it was these games were digested in their time frame. And that's what a lot of this opus is really going to be about, really putting you in the moment of when these games were released and how people back in the day, because now it's easy as hell to get access to these games. You simply go to a store, click a button for like $6 or $7, and you playing KOF 94 like that. We won't be talking about the PS3 versions because there's no reason to. It's just this was online, and you know, why would a review of me talking about a feature I never used in any fighting game and haven't in years, unless it's been for research purposes, to be, well, it's KOF 94, that game you love, but it just got online now. I hear the online is decent, but it's better in Japan, because you know, that's just how things work. That would have been the review right there. We're not gonna do that. I might come back around to it for shits and giggles, but it's not going to be immediately. I'd have to find somebody to play it with and do all that. There are plans for that. There are plans for that. So, like I said, we're going to have a lot of fun with this. You just expect me to talk about the collections and ports and D-makes and Game Boy and Neo Geo Pocket versions of games. It's just, I'm going to blow this series out the water in a way that no one has ever covered it before, from a source you can trust, because I'm the only source you can trust. Something gives me money. I don't know. But that's it, man. We've been at this about, according to my apparatus, about 44 minutes now. So we're going to go ahead and get out of here, because there's nothing else left. When we come back to the King of Fighters 94, I'm going to do you a service, and I'm going to teach you how to play this game. Or at least teach you how to approach it, because there is a video that could explain KOF way better than I ever could. You should go find that video by Dan DJ. You should do that. I forget. I think, what is it called? It's called The Idiot's Guide to KOF 94, of KOF or something. It has stuff with, it has golf game stuff in it. Neo Turf Masters. I had to think of the damn game, but it's like, if you really want to learn about KOF, you should find that video by Dan DJ. You should, because it even though I do my thing, that video has been around for years and does, knowing the basis of KOF, any better justice than I can do. But I have to, because again, due diligence. See, I can't even talk. I'm so happy that my words are slipping out of my mouth, because I get to talk about a video game series that I love. So expect sometime next week. We'll do the Triple the Guide Explains It All of KOF 94, and then we'll get into KOF 95. And if you're lucky, I might just play the Saturn version because you don't play the Neo Geo CD versions of anything. That's going to be a running thing. You don't play the Neo Geo CD versions of anything because usually it's done better on the Saturn for whatever reason, and you avoid PlayStation ports at all costs, except the games that have galleries and stuff. And when we get to games that have galleries, we'll be taking a look at those because I just feel that's a good idea. How about that? But that's it. That's it for real. I hope you guys learned something, and I'm going to be learning to write a song right alongside you guys because there are a lot of questions that I have. And one of the things that I'm interested in is answering my own questions. It's not that I don't trust the information out there, but I want to know. And sometimes that the answers that the internet provides and stuff are not satisfactory answers that will quell my curiosity about the subject in question. That's why a lot of these videos exist. A lot of these videos exist simply because of my curiosity of wanting to answer my own questions. Because I want to know the answer. That it's easy to sit up here and Google the answer. It's a lot more enjoyable to get down to the nitty gritty and answer the question yourself. So, that's that. That will be that. Y'all go ahead. Y'all get out of here. Triple the Guide Explains It All. KOF 94 is next. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Let me see. I need to check something real quick. Who is it that I am? Let me see. Let me check. Oh, yeah, I remember. Oh, I'm the one and the only, the Triple the G.O.D. That's me. This is, of course, your favorite YouTube show. That show we lovingly call around here Diary of a Game War. This is the opus of the King of Fighters. And we will see you guys in the episode of Triple the Guide Explains It All while I teach you how to play this game. And until then, I will holler at you guys next time, man. Peace out.